actually middle school. So it's always been a passion of mine. And later on, I started working professionally. More recently, I studied with MIT and got certifications in UX, which was kind of like a mindset shift and completely changed the way I look at developing technology. And so, yeah, obviously, generative AI has been really interesting to work with these days and kind of very transformative. And I think that there's really a lot of opportunity with generative AI, especially in the education space, because personally, I've been learning so much with generative AI. So, yeah, I'm really excited about sharing some of my findings here with everyone. And thank you, Terrence, for inviting me to the webinar.
Thanks, Jay. So these are the objectives of today's webinar. Again, it's a short session, so the objectives are quite modest. So at the end of the day, hopefully you'll be able to identify the components of your workday, which can be made more efficient through generative AI. You'll be able to use prompt engineering with ChatGPT or any other large language model to generate unit plans, lesson plans, and instructional material. And you'll be able to use rapid prototyping to create simple scripts that enhance your use of Google Forms and other Google Suite products, right? So before I go into the meat of things, right, as teachers, I think it's very easy to feel like this, right? You have a lot of commitments, you have a whole day that's filled with more than just instruction. As the role of a teacher has expanded, I remember having to do things like call parents, write marketing material, write the school newsletter, and it can all get very overwhelming. So a big question is, how can we use technology to make this process less cumbersome and more efficient, right? So before I go into this in greater detail, I'd like you to take a moment to join Slido and then key in this number over here. And I want you to rank the following activities in the order of the time that you might normally spend on it. There are many things from lesson prep to evaluation feedback, professional development, all of this. I want you to take a minute to just rank it in terms of the order of time that you normally spend on it. And so the activity that takes the most time should be on the top. So you can access this quiz by your phone, or you can use your device. I'm gonna give everyone maybe 1 or 2 minutes to do this. I want to see if people are facing trouble entering the poll. Otherwise, we might have to move on in 1 or 2 minutes. So take the next couple of minutes to just quickly rank. Doesn't have to be totally perfect. Yeah, so as you can see, administration, student instruction engagement, and lesson prep take up most of your day, right? And actually, this is not that different from what researchers at McKinsey have found out. Thanks for all who've participated and kind of humored me in this short activity. I'm going to move on to the next slide. So administration, student engagement, student instruction, lesson prep, evaluation, and feedback. All these kind of are the top four in a sense, based on a very, very small sample. And this is actually not that different from what teachers in developed economies face, right? So what McKinsey did was they polled teachers in the UK, Singapore, the US, and I believe there was one more country in Europe. And what they realized that within 50 hours of working time a week for a teacher, and this is an average time, I know many of us work more than 50 hours, only 49% of time is in direct interaction with students. The most time within a teacher's day is devoted to student instruction and engagement. That's not surprising. It's the way it should be. But a lot of time is also devoted to lesson preparation, evaluation and feedback, as well as administrative tasks. So that's kind of the situation that teachers fall in, and we have to ask ourselves, why as teachers is so little of a time spent in direct interaction with students and so much time spent behind the scenes preparing, marking. I mean, those are essential tasks, but is there a way to make those tasks simpler with technology? As it stands, there is, right? McKinsey also realized that technology can help teachers reallocate 20 to 30% of their time towards activities that can support student learning. And the top activities that are most suitable for being enhanced with technology, right, to save hours of your day is preparation, evaluation and feedback, as well as administration. So out of 10 and a half hours a week spent on preparation, half of it actually can be saved or be reallocated towards other things, right? If we want to automate it using technology. And for the 6.5 hours of time spent on evaluating and giving feedback, things like grading, summative assessments, giving feedback on formative assessments, out of 6.5 hours spent doing that per week, half of it can be saved, right? If we want to leverage technology. And what the authors of this study said is, if we're going to save so much time using technology, this is time that can be devoted towards in-class student support, towards engaging students directly, towards coaching. And these are things that cannot be enhanced by technology so much because they are really about the face-to-face experience, which is all it should be. So this is the thesis for today's webinar, right? How can we use generative AI to help you save time when it comes to the activities on the left over here? Well, most of us will be familiar with this, right? What does preparation and evaluation and feedback look like in practice? So many things when it comes to preparation. It's unit planning, you got to meet standards, weave in through lines. For lesson planning, you got to have clear outcomes, student objectives. You got to differentiate instruction for your learners. You got to give formative and summative assessments, and all of this takes time. I'm not even talking about the prepping for instructional material, right? Doing slides, designing your worksheets, printing, prepping logistics, buying logistics sometimes, all that takes a lot of time. And for evaluation and feedback, a lot of marking, right? A lot of marking has been automated today, but a lot of marking is still pen and paper, right? Providing meaningful feedback, right? And what does that mean exactly? Deciding what is meaningful, how to develop, feedback that feeds forward, right? We talk about feedback that helps students do better in the future. Ensuring that students understand the feedback or have opportunities to clarify, determining interventions. All of these are things that fall under this evaluation and feedback category, right? And today will be, and generative AI can help, right? Generative AI can actually make many of these things much easier for you. So today we'll be focusing on preparation, right? Which is on the left, okay? I'll be giving an example of how we can use unit planning and how we can use ChatGPT to enhance unit planning and lesson planning through a hands-on work example that I'll be sharing with you guys. And yeah, so let's get started with unit planning. So this is a segment where I do and you observe, and then we'll have some time to debrief a little after that. So I'm going to role play as a high school physics teacher. And I am going to say that let me share my full screen for a moment. So I'm gonna say I'm a high school physics teacher. I want to develop a high school unit on for high school physics, right? So I'm gonna pull up my ChatGPT. I'm gonna go to new chat. And I'm gonna assume also that most of us here have experience with ChatGPT. I'm not gonna go through the basics of logging in and conversing with ChatGPT, and we focus more on how to do up a unit plan. So I'm gonna say, for example, I'm gonna say write me a unit plan for high school physics. And I'm also going to add in some curriculum standards, okay? I'm going to pull up curriculum standards from a previous piece that my colleague may have done, right? So in a previous unit, I hit all these, standards. So I'm going to copy them. I'm going to paste it in the following standards. And I'm going to say that maybe I want to include the engineering design process because that's something that often is neglected. So I want to be sure that I weave in the engineering design process in my lessons. So I'll also specify, right? Include the unit plan should reflect the engineering design process. Okay, so I'm going to press enter and see what I come up with. So GPT is going to spit out a lesson plan. So it gives me all the specific standards. I'm going to stop it right there and say no need to generate the specific standards. Right? Because what it's doing for me is spitting out all these standards, and that takes time. Great. So when this happens sometimes, what I have to do is to do a new chat, right? So I'm going to copy this. There it is. And I'm going to specify now, there is no need to generate individual standards. Start. Okay, so it gives me a pretty standard lesson plan. I mean, I don't think it's particularly creative yet. It's pretty run of the mill. Weekly topics with a breakdown by day. I can also ask it. So let's say I now want to think about reformatting or reformulating this in the form of a project-based learning, right? So I'll say formulate the plan to highlight project-based learning each task a week, and it's going to generate Oh, okay. So this is more like it. When I thought of the engineering design process, I wanted to reflect the process through project-based learning, where in each week, students would do a project. Okay. And it gives me formative as well as summative assessments. Um, I'm a bit happier with this unit plan, but I'm not the most satisfied with it yet. I'm gonna ask GPT, what were the different considerations and criteria when it generated the lesson plan? This is a good way to get GPT to tell you how it does something, right? What's the process it took? So I'm gonna ask it, what's the key considerations and criteria that you took into account when developing the lesson? I'm going to ask it this so I can look under the hood to see how it generated the plan. So standards alignment, project-based learning, all these are things that I specified. The engineering design process, real-world connections, that's always great. Collaborative learning, assessment strategies. Connection to maker-centric education. So it gives me 10 different considerations and criteria. I'm pretty happy with this. I go back and look at my lesson plan, my unit plan, right? What's missing? I ask myself. So a couple of things I want to generate is student outcomes and objectives for the whole unit plan. And I also want GPT to generate curriculum framing questions, right? I want to know the true lines. I want to know things like what are some generative questions, right? That students should be able to answer, like broad questions that students should be able to answer. I want to know what some anchoring phenomena for the unit. So I'll put all of this and I'll tell GPT, this is a suitable unit plan. Add on the following elements. You guys can look at your own unit plan template, because I know in many schools you guys have a unit plan template that you have to follow, and you can include the specifications as you go along. Student student outcomes and learning objectives. I want to generate questions, regular frame questions. I also want to know the anchoring phenomena. And all this is very specific to like science. But in the other disciplines, there are different texts that you got to attach to your unit plan. So I'm going to see what GPT comes up with. All right. Student outcomes and learning objectives with action words. Good. So it generates essential questions, unit questions, and content questions. Is able to determine what true lines are, educational true lines, and what's anchoring phenomena. And I'm able to add this to my unit plan, right? So this from here, you can see how, you can add on more questions. You can ask it to generate a summative assessment for the end of your unit plan. And it's basically a conversation that you're having with GPT, right? Some key takeaways, right? You got to provide the context, the task specification, as well as constraints. So in this case, right, I could have specified that, I have a class of 20 students in high school. So that's setting context, right? I want you to develop a physics unit plan. That's the task specification. And then not just any unit plan. I want you to develop a unit plan that incorporates the engineering design process, and that includes a certain fixed set of standards, right? So that's the constraints. So within your initial prompt, if you provide the context, task specification, as well as constraints, then you're setting GPT up for success, and you don't have to you don't have to go through so many rounds of back and forth to get what you want, right? Provide what info you can upfront, but you can always improve on the AI's output later on. Within the same chat, ChatGPT learns from previous exchanges. What does this mean? This means that if I front load information and GPT replies in a certain way, and I acknowledge that its output is accurate or inaccurate, the system or the language model will use the information to inform later responses, right? So that's why if I were to continue talking to GPT within this particular chat, it would only get more accurate because it'll be learning from its experiences in the preceding chat. Okay, so I think we have a little bit of time to do some lesson planning with ChatGPT. And this is where things are going to get a bit more interesting, right? I'm going to invite anyone to give me a lesson, give me a subject and a topic right down in the chat window, and we're going to do some quick prompt engineering with GPT. And we only have a few minutes for this, so first come, first serve, subject as well as topic. And let's see what GPT gives us. Okay, well, if there's no one, I'll go with my favorites. I was a history teacher, right? So I'm gonna look at the westward expansion, for example. Okay, and what I'm gonna do, remember what I mentioned about context, task specification, and constraints. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna create a new chat, right? And I'm gonna say, well, I'm a teacher with a class of 20 students, high school teacher. I'm a high school teaching a class on westward expansion. Generate. I'm gonna go broad and then narrow it down. That's why I'm gonna ask you to generate a few ideas on teaching the westward expansion, causes of the westward expansion. I'm also gonna give GPT information about what my students already know, so it knows the students' prior knowledge. My students have learned about key events of the westward expansion. And I'm gonna let it generate a few examples to do the brainstorming for me. All right. Economic motivations, motivators, manifest destiny, doing a role play scenario, technology integration, historical letter writing. Okay, I like the first one, the economic motivations activity. So what I'm going to do is generate lesson plan, idea one first. I'm also going to give it differentiation options because I know my class might have ELLs and students with IEPs. So I'm going to specify my class as a student with dyslexia, another with ADHD, and 5 ELLs. Generate. I've also learned about inquiry-based learning, right, in my previous PD, for example. So I'm going to specify that GPT should give me a lesson plan using idea number one in the form of inquiry-based learning, right? The lesson plan based on the ideas of inquiry-based learning. Let's see what it comes out with. Either way, I'm going to share all these GPT transcripts with everyone so we can see so that all of you can take a look in your own time, because I know things are moving pretty fast. Yep. So you can see it spits out the objectives, the materials.
I like this. This saves a lot of time.
Yeah. And the great thing is you can prompt it even more. So you actually, when they say economic motivation cards, land opportunities, most often the teacher will still have to like type out them, but you can still ask GPT, can you give me the text for these economic motivation cards?
Which still aligns with the benchmarks and everything and the standards, which is great because it diversifies for all the students and still be able to hit the main points at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
So I actually didn't specify the standards, not yet, but I can definitely do so. I can say, make sure it's aligned to Georgia standards or whatever your state standards are. But this is a general lesson for Westwood expansion. So yeah, this is pretty much all the time we have for today, for this segment at least. But you can, I hope this is a good like introduction to let you guys understand kind of the potential for using GPT in your classroom. Give me a moment to pop this up. We're going to return back to this later on if we have a bit more time. But what I really want to do is to hand over the time to Jay. So Jay is going to be sharing about something a bit different. So over here, we've learned about how to use GPT for prompt engineering to generate unit plans and lesson plans. Jay is going to be talking about something a bit different called rapid prototyping that many teachers may not have heard of before. So I'm going to hand over the time to Jay. I'm not going to spoil it. So Jay, you can take it away.
Hey, how's it going? First of all, thanks for Terrence for inviting me to this webinar. Really excited to share this information with everyone here. And well, without further ado, we will share my screen and okay, share the screen. Okay, do you guys see the screen? Okay, yeah, you guys should see it. So a little about what I do. Basically, I'm a founder and creative technologist of Evolve3, and we're a next generation collaborative research and development community focusing on igniting the next evolution to Life 3. This is generative AI reinventing the teaching workday. So, as you know, our problem statement, manually randomizing a multiple choice question, then grading each can be a daunting and time-consuming task for teachers on a busy schedule, while having a non-randomized quiz can make it easier for students to cheat, with wandering eyeballs. So the solution is leverage rapid prototyping, prompt engineering, Google Forms, and Google Apps Script to develop quiz randomization process automation flows. Well, I guess in a simpler way to describe those two things is that I thought that there was a problem. For instance, at least when I'm not sure what's going on in schools now, but when I was a kid, cheating was a big thing and big problem, and sometimes when kids sit next to each other, they should have variations of quizzes. And so utilizing AI and scripting, we kind of automate this process, because for a human, it would kind of be complicated to randomize quizzes in multiple variations. So we could quickly just check the demo out. By the way, am I still on there? Okay, cool. So here's this implementation, by the way, is with Google Forms. And we'll go over more about the details about how this is built. But so if we go into the quiz randomizer, say we have a quiz laid out. Of course, these are just placeholders, and these letters are just to demonstrate the randomization. And essentially, we've already scripted the plugin, but here's like the demo of the actual result of the product. Create a shuffled version, right? And if we created a shuffled version. Well, sorry, let's go back just to demonstrate. It was first question G, question B, question I, question D, and we automatically created a variation called basic quiz with identifier A, question F, question J, question A, question I. So as you can see, it randomized it. And if we go back to the root quiz, we can then again make another variation. So now we'll have quiz B and the questions and, oh, what happened there? And as you can see, the questions have been shuffled and randomized. So how do we create this script? And this is what this presentation is about. This workshop is, so some prerequisites that's good to know is Google Forms, JavaScript, ChatGPT, GPT-4 in particular. We used software development, UX UI design fundamentals, and agile methodology. It's important to know, if you want to get really good with rapid prototyping, is software development fundamentals and essentially prompting in technical terms, and we'll show you why in a bit, and then the agile methodology and prompt engineering. So yeah, we'll quickly go over the steps. Prompting GPT-4 to generate a script. The prompt that we gave it was, can you write a script that randomizes quiz questions in Google form? In a few moments, you'll find out why this slide is important in terms of this part. So there's actually an error here, and oftentimes when you rapid prototype, or if you want to call it scripting or programming, prompt engineering, there are bugs that are created with GPT. GPT is not perfect, so we often get into debugging loops. This is kind of important to know, because in order to get software to work, you often have to debug it, both in the AI process and also the manual human process. This script was developed in Google Apps Script, which is a scripting language based on JavaScript for creating custom scripts for Google Cloud apps like Google Forms, Gmail, Google Sheets. So I think this Google Apps Script is very powerful for teachers. You guys could probably completely automate tasks that take you forever, and literally do it in a click of a button. And so running the script in Google Apps Script UI, that's part of it. The Google Script App Script UI lives in the more button and 1 to 3 dots, and yeah, that's the result. So let's go over how this would be done, actually, as a demo. So okay, so let me go back to this. And so if we wanted to approach this process with GPT to write this script for us, you would naturally say, can you write a script that randomizes quiz questions in a Google form? Oops, what's going on here? Why is that happening? Sorry. Okay, so let's do a new chat, and actually there's an error here, and I think it's good for you guys to see this error happening. Well, actually, sorry. GPT sometimes outputs different things. So last time we tried this prompt, there was an error, but it seems like it corrected its own error, and now it's kind of utilizing Google Apps Script. But previously, I think it was in maybe this one. Well, yeah. Sometimes GPT, if you don't write it in your prompt in technical terms, like exactly, for instance, can you write a script that randomizes quiz questions in a Google form versus can you write a script that randomizes quiz questions in a Google form with Google Apps Script? It might write it in a different language and create something that would be not as easy to implement or not as scalable. So yeah, that's something just to know about the technical terms that is good to speak to GPT in technical terms. So going back to that slide where it's good to know the fundamentals. And so let's see if GPT did do this correctly. Okay, it's saying for this prompt to use it as a guide, but maybe it'll give us the, just to be sure, the exact code. With Google Apps Script, and then it should maybe give you more accurate code. So basically, you would copy this code. I'd say it's good to kind of also look into the code if you're keen on learning JavaScript and how functions work, how variables work and such, and how loops, like for loops work. It all kind of explains it here, and I think it's really good learning tool to like prompt something and then see how the code looks. So there's like this connection where you kind of create a relation to what your intention is to how it's coded. And so you can go into script editor here. That's yeah, those three buttons again in the form. And it seems like this already has, so we're going to create a new one, new script, and let's call it Q, R, R, and D 2, just to make it unique. And don't need GS there. Okay. And yeah, what I just did there is Command A, which is select all. You could just throw in the code there. And so we'll run the script. I just saved it with the disk. I have to give myself access. So this is the execution log, and it was completed. So now, if we, well, how about we first see the order? Question F, question B, question C, question G, and let's run the script. And execution completed. And as you noticed, the questions shuffled. question D, question C, question F, question B, and we can do it again. Question I, question E, question B, question D. So it works. And it's simply that automation was created just with one prompt. We can, in a previous session, we created a bit more. I'm not sure if we have time to go over, but basically we gave it a prompt to also save variations with a identifier. So with this one that's already created, and if you look in the script editor, the code's a bit longer, and I guess that part of the code lives the next identifier. So I think we have a little bit of time to just prompt to the script above, and you add functionality to save each variation, each quiz variation. So we could just take that updated code with that updated function that we wanted to add, which adds another layer of automation, because if we didn't have the script, we would have to randomize and save a copy and then save a copy. So we save a couple of steps with the script, and by developing, we could develop even more automations on top. So let's go back to the demo. And hopefully it works, fingers crossed. But actually we wanted to show a bug so we can show you how to debug. So hopefully actually it shows a bug this time. And save that. And we can run it. Oh, there's the bug. So this is with other kind of IDEs. There are errors usually, a lot of times in the software development process. And so we can just throw the error here, and then hopefully GPT will fix it. And again, sometimes GPT doesn't get it right on the first try. And so this hence why we call it debugging loops, because it sometimes loops bugs, and then it finally creates the solution. So we'll save it again, and we will run it. Oh, another error. At certain points, at least in my process, I would, since I have a background in development, I would look into the code and find out exactly where I think there might be a bug. And at certain situations, we would just take that little snippet and say, hey, fix this part. I think this is where the problem is. And just letting you know that sometimes that's the way we handle the error instead. And so yeah, even with simple things, as you can see with GPT, software development's not so easy and fast like a lot of people think. It could get fairly complex, and a lot of bugs might unravel after a while. But yeah, for quick scripts like this, it should be done fairly quickly. Yeah. So, and some other things that I quickly want to talk about was that we've been prototyping some things that we could have never imagined engineering ourselves without extra help. We've been doing it, and especially this interesting one that I think is going to make a lot of impact in certain areas. Extended data science, which are basically 3D charts and kind of emerging UX charts and data science user experience. So yeah, I guess that's it for my segment, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, so we have around 5 minutes left for Q&A. If there's anyone who has any questions, we can take these questions now, whether it's on rapid prototyping or on the prompt engineering segment. Anyone has questions? You can also type into the window, our chat window, and we'll be able to see the questions that we have. One thing we'll also do is we will be sending over the text as well as the prompts that we used, both the prompts that we did live over this webinar, as well as some of our more the background research that we did, so that you guys can take a look at how we actually prompted GPT in certain ways. But yeah, if anyone has a question at all, let me know.
So just one quick note that I wanted to, I guess, how long? Well, Sandra, that's a good question. Should I answer this, Terrence?
Yeah. Sandra, what do you mean by set it up? Like, what does it refer to? You mean ChatGPT or particular? What are you looking to do?
To set up the chat GPT, but also to start creating lesson plans and implementing them, because school's right around the corner. So I'm wondering how long does the process would normally take if we were to go ahead and set it up.
Okay. So if you go to chat, and I think I can do this really quickly. If you're not logged in, you'll come up with this window, and if you click sign up, it'll get you to sign up with your email address, or you can sign up with Google, single sign-on. If you click on continue with Google, and you click on whatever your email address is, it should, for example, if I click this one, which is my work email, it brings me straight to here. There's the free version, so I use the paid version just because I want it to be faster and everything. But the free version should give you the results as well, right? And that's it. So literally sign up is like 5 minutes, maybe even less, and then you can start typing.
Okay.
Yeah. So no time at all. I guess one caveat that I didn't have a slide on, but it's important to mention, is privacy and security. So GPT uses all the information that you're giving it as kind of training data for other people. So just be sure not to put in any identifiers, student details, things like that, right? That's something that a lot of people forget to mention. Yeah. So that's why in our examples that we gave, we I didn't mention any student details or any. I don't give it any details which will allow it to identify any of my students. Yeah. Are there any AI detectors that can be used to check plagiarism? Yeah, this is a tricky question. I mean, I'm not the expert on this, but based on the research that I did, I don't think that's one that can detect plagiarism very safely, because it's like an arms race, right? You have AI detectors that can detect plagiarism, but you have other AI tools that can generate content that are supposed to like surmount or defeat the AI detectors. And then so it's an arms race, an ongoing arms race. This is challenging. I think what some teachers are trying to do is to develop assessments that are AI proof, that require students to use their own personal experience, higher order thinking. And I can send some links along if you're interested, right? So the idea is that you assign assignments that can't be generated using AI, whether it's assignments that involve personal examples, getting them to synthesize, connect ideas between your personal life and the topic that's being taught, or higher order thinking, which is difficult to emulate using AI. Yeah. Rihanna.
Good morning. So to go on to that AI detectors, there are programs to add on to different aspects that can detect cheating, as far as if cheating is detected from AI. I know there's different programs that offers that. But as far as a particular AI technology, I'm not aware of any as of right now.
Thanks, Rihanna. Grace asked a question about AI to generate lesson plan slides. Check out tome.app. So it doesn't generate specifically slides for a lesson plan, but what you can do is you can give it a prompt and it will generate slides on that topic. And you can use that as a base for further editing. So for instructional material, particularly slides, I don't know of any. I'm sure there are out there. But what I have used is tome.app. And what it gives you, and maybe I'll just share my screen real quick. If we had time, I would do this. But basically, this is something that was generated using Tome. I asked it to generate slides related to the causes of westward expansion, and this is what it gave me. I think it's still too wordy, right? And if I were to prompt it again, I would prompt it in a way to give me bullet points and language that is suitable for like a 4th grade or 5th grade standard. But you see how it generates images that are like super nice that you can use for further editing. Yeah, I can just, before we break, I can just show you how it's done. Create presentation about authors of expert expansion for the bullet points. Okay, continue. And then it'll generate the slides for me. Excuse me. Oh, well, I don't think it's working so well in terms of generating it in bullet points. Yeah, but this is just a start. Yeah, this is definitely not 4th grade language. I don't think so. Yeah. So yeah, this is, well, this is basically, is there a copyright infringement on slides? No. So you can use it. I believe the images are, what's it called? AI generated. And then the words are AI generated too. Yeah. Canvas offers a program. Yeah. So Canvas and Turnitin, I mean, those are the big plagiarism detector companies. Okay, cool. So I'm cognizant of the time. It's depending on where you are, it's either early or very early. So just want to thank everyone for on Jay's case, very late. Jay is based in South Korea right now, so it's late for him. Thanks everyone for kind of joining our short webinar, and I think this will be helpful for everyone as everyone's starting to plan up, gear up for the new school year. Really appreciate the time you've taken to join us. And I will be in touch to share your individual certificates of participation, as well as a group message. Well, not a group message, but a separate email with all the content that we've generated, as well as some of the slides that we've been using today. So feel free to share it. We only ask if you share the slides that you just credit AppMaker and Evolve3, but feel free to share in a non-commercial way with your colleagues and friends. Once again, this is Terrence and Jay from AppMaker and Evolve3. And yeah, thanks so much for joining us. And we hope to see you again in some of our other webinars. Thank you.
Nice meeting you guys. Thanks again.
Thank you, Terrence. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Terrence. It was a pleasure meeting you, Jay. Hopefully, I'll be seeing you soon.
Yep.
Likewise.
Thank you, guys.
Chat soon.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Michael.
All right.
Rihanna, I'll text you about the professional development stuff. I think I've identified a couple that might be suitable. But I think we just have to kind of like flesh out how it might look like and how it might look like within your school's kind of whole professional development plan throughout the year. Yeah, I mean, are your teachers kind of like new to technology? Like, what's their baseline? Yes. Oh, Rihanna, sorry, you're on mute. Sorry, Rihanna, I think you're on mute.
Sorry.
No worries,
So
no worries.
Ms. Bowden, she's not new to technology. Ms. Baker is not new to technology. Mr. Freeman, he's old school. And Mr. Ernest, who wasn't able to join us, I'm training him on technology. So he'll get there eventually.
Cool. Okay. Let's talk about this in greater detail, maybe like next week or something. I mean, and I think it's probably maybe useful to get the owner of the school in or the principal. Just to well, I mean, if yeah, I don't know if you think that's something that we might need to do, or you think we can go ahead with planning what we want to do and then going ahead with it.
Let's see when let me know when you're available, and I'll see. Let me message him right now.
Yeah, because I can send you a proposal as early as like next week.
Okay.
For some form of pilot program. But yeah, I mean the it wouldn't be free, but it would be low cost.
Right,
So,
I know. I already told him.
That's why I'm
Remember, he
thinking
wanted me
about
to put it in writing.
Oh, yes. The lawyer.
Yeah, the lawyer in him.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I gotta jump off to another call later, but just text me. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll text each other over the course of the day anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, I
he
gotta
said
bounce.
next week he's gonna be busy, but he'll let me know. So let's try for the following week.
Okay. Following week. So that's the last week of August, right? Yeah, last week of August.
Yeah, the last week of August.
Okay. Cool. Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Have a great day. This is your new office.
Yeah. So I'll send you the pictures of my parents and them in Bolivia.
Oh yes. I wanna see.
Yeah.
I wanna see that. I was in Bolivia a long time ago.
You were?
In college, when I was in college, we did a trip to Bolivia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when I was we saw what's it called? The salt flats and everything.
Oh, okay.
You must have gone to the salt flats.
I haven't gone yet.
Oh, you
I
gotta
should
go.
go. We did.
it's very
We
nice.
went to Brazil. We did Belize. We did some Central America countries when we did the Western Caribbean cruise, and we did Brazil years ago. But we haven't done Bolivia yet.
Mm,
But yeah, I want to
Bolivia is
go.
pretty. Yeah, you should make a trip. Bolivia and Chile, those are the two countries I did together.
Yeah, mommy and them went to Chile. They did Chile, Argentina, and somewhere else. They did 3 of those countries with Argentina and Chile and I think Ecuador.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, within the same area.
Yeah.
Got it.
You have a meeting. Tell your wife
yeah,
I
yeah,
said
yeah.
go and go.
I will. I'll text you.
Take care.
Bye bye.
All right,
Take
bye-bye.
care.